In this video, I'll be walking through how to create an editorial content briefing AI agent. So we'll create something that starts with just an input topic and create something like you see right here, which is a very robust content brief that can be utilized to write SEO optimized content. You'll have your target H1 tag, a keyword optimized H1 tag, your competitive keyword targets, which actually go through the core head keywords that you need to be utilizing on the page, reoccurring topics that appear on the page. So that includes different topics that were utilized within competitive pages currently ranking for the results you want to rank for. You'll have a full content outline, which includes the H2 tags, H3 tags, the content outline for each of the core sections, and media ideas. So you see right here for this topic, which was packing for a winter trip to Iceland, you have your H2 tags. So we have exploring Iceland during the winter, packing smart for Iceland's winter, navigating Iceland's roads during the winter, and so on and so forth. A very robust outline. Within each of those core sections, we have our H3 tags, which are, of course, the subsections within that section, and actual outlines of what kind of content you actually want to be writing for each of these sections. In addition to that, you have your media ideas. So that includes imagery, videos, infographics, different types of multimedia that will be beneficial for each of these sections. After that, you'll have your competitive page reviews. So this is mostly just there for reference. It pulls in the top results for your target search result, and it actually provides an overview of the pages, which has each of its core sections, its key points, and each of its subsections. So a pretty robust outline for each of the pages. And then a consolidated view of the links that are from each of the competitive pages. So again, you'll start with a topic. In this case, I believe the topic was planning a trip to Iceland during the winter, and the output will be something like what you see right here. How we'll do this is with the Langflow platform. We'll create what you see right here from end to end. We'll start with this chat input. We'll use the Tavily search API to pull in the search results, filter it down to only the editorial results. From there, we'll get the keyword targets. We'll scrape the main contents of the page. We'll use that context to actually funnel it through into a few different AI models to get the reoccurring topics, to get the aggregate page links, and to get the core H1 of the page. Then we'll take all of that information, generate a content outline, and combine it all together into our final content brief. So this is a pretty robust AI agent, but we'll walk through each of these components step by step to bring you to how you start from a blank canvas to this finalized result that you can start utilizing for your SEO services. During this tutorial, I will be using the Langflow software to actually create the AI workflows. In addition, I'm using DataStax. This is actually a free platform that you could go ahead and create your own account on. I don't know if it's going to be free forever. They might change that in the future. Langflow, the actual platform that we're building on, is open source. So there's a lot of different ways that you can actually deploy it and utilize it. But for this tutorial, I am using DataStax. Again, that might change in the future. I will link in the description this platform right here, as well as a few other options that you could utilize. One other thing to note before you jump into things is that if you want to just go ahead and test out this workflow, you don't want to go through the effort of actually building this all out, there is a very easy way to actually just go ahead and upload what I've already created for you and start testing it yourself. So in the description below, I have linked a file that you could download. And what will happen is that you could come in and click this upload a flow button here, choose the file I have provided in the link below, and it will actually just create the entire workflow for you. That will include everything we're going to create in this video. You can open it up and just go ahead and start making adjustments. From there, all you're going to need to do is add in your API keys, and you should be able to go ahead and start testing the tool immediately. One final thing to note here before we jump into building the workflow is that you can navigate to this URL, ai.seoworkflows.com/tool/editorial content briefing agent. We'll link that in the description below. You can navigate to this page and you can just go ahead and test this out to check out the input, output, and ensure that this is something that you want to invest your time in. First thing we're going to do is we're going to come into Langflow, click New Flow, and we're going to start with a blank canvas or blank flow, whatever you want to call it. There's a few things I like to do at the start of any project, first of which is to actually name the project. So come in here and call it Editorial Content Briefing Agent. Just call this dev video so I know which one it is. I'm going to leave the description blank for the time being, and I'm going to leave the endpoint name blank for the time being. If you do want to add an endpoint name, that's actually for using their API. So you could kind of use this flow to actually make requests externally to use this kind of AI process. But for our sake here, I don't need that. I'll save that. So I now have the customized name. The second thing I like doing is to add a note that has some directions for myself on what I'm trying to complete. So I've already went ahead and created those. I'll add them in here and we'll see our step-by-step. I'd highly recommend going about doing something like this right here that plans out what you're doing beforehand. You don't always have to stick to this one-to-one, but generally speaking, it's a good idea to start creating a kind of outline for what you want to create. So you have that down on paper and you could work off that and make adjustments as needed. So jumping into things, we'll grab the chat input, chat output. I generally like using both just so you can see where the process is going to begin and where the process is going to end. You can imagine everything that happens in between here is that you have a chat input. That's like you're just sending a message to an AI like you would with ChatGPT or any other AI out there. You're sending a message. Then we're going to build all of these workflows that happen in the middle, and then the chat output, just like getting a response from an AI. So what makes this unique is just all the processes that we're going to build in between here. But the chat input and chat output is exactly what you would imagine sending a message to a system and getting a message back. For our first real workflow, we're going to put together this editorial SERP scrape. So that's going to require an agent, the Tavily search, as well as a prompt. So we'll come in here, we'll type agent, grab one of these agent components, nodes, whatever you want to call them. We'll grab the Tavily search. So that's pre-built for us. You can see it's already set up as a tool, which we'll go over in a moment here, and a prompt, which we'll put down here. From here, we're going to want to connect these all together. The initial message from the user is going to become the input for this agent. The tool is going to get hooked into the tools, and the prompt is going to hook into the agent instructions. So just taking a moment here to look at what we have. We have this agent node that's connected to Tavily search and a prompt as the agent instructions. The chat input is going into the actual agent input. So what we're actually expecting to happen is this agent has the ability to use the Tavily search functionality. That's what the agent having access to that tool actually does. The prompt, which we're going to input here in a second, is going to actually instruct the agent to make a search based on the user's input and aggregate the search results based on the use of that tool. So if we jump into this, I already have the prompts all set for us. I will link all these in the description of the video, so find them down there. And I do want to also note that I'll continually be optimizing these over time. So what you see right here might not one-to-one match what you see in the description. Utilize whatever you see in the description. Whatever you see in the description of this video is going to be the most optimal version of the prompt, but it should generally align with what you see right here, and the outputs will still align. So I won't spend too much time on this, but it's just mentioning that you're going to use the Tavily search results tool to make a search for the topic. It's going to extract the information for the topic. It's going to use the tool to make that search. It's going to review the results to figure out which ones actually have an editorial intent, and that's going to compile the results for those that are solely an editorial intent. We'll also need to add in our API keys. So I've already stored my API keys as variables here. That's generally how I'd recommend it. There's a few different ways you could just type an API key in manually, or what's nice is you could store these as variables and then you could use them across any project. So we have our first workflow built. Next thing that we're going to want to do is just test this out. So I'm going to add a search query in here. Let's use how to learn SEO. I'm going to hit this play button that says run component at the top of the agent, and it will run the workflow up into the point that we currently have it. Once that's done running, you could click right down here where it says inspect output next to the response of the agent and open up the text. So this is showing what the agent actually returned. So now that we have this all functional, we'll move on to our next step here, which is creating the fire crawl scrape API, or apologies, we're going to create the competitive page analysis part of this process. So for that, we're actually going to need a custom component, which again, I'll provide the code for this. So don't worry about that. We'll need a prompt and we'll need another agent. So this is a pretty typical pattern that you'll see a lot, where you have some kind of component, which we're going to use as a tool. We'll have a prompt that we'll use as the agent instructions, and then we'll have an agent that we'll use to actually manage that workflow. So next up here, we'll add in the prompt. Again, the most up-to-date version of this prompt will be found in the description. So pop down there. There should be a link that will go out to all the various prompts that will have the most up-to-date versions. And secondarily, we'll need to create a custom component here. So I will provide the code for this. It will be in the description. What you'll need to do is you'll click on this code button after creating a custom component. Again, you create a custom component by clicking this button in the bottom left-hand corner. Then you'll click code right here. You'll copy and paste the code I will have provided, and then you'll get something that looks like this. Just for the sake of our own sanity and knowing what's going on, I will rename this so we'll know this gets the page keywords. And you see right here, gets keywords for a page using data for SEO API. So that is actually something that was just within the code that has that description. So from there, we'll need to add our username and password. So again, I've already saved these as variables. These you'll have to get from the data for SEO API, of course. And then we'll come in here and we'll do a few different things. We have to add this into the agent instructions. We'll add this into the tools. And then we'll actually plug in the response from our last agent into the input for this agent right here. So testing this out, just like we did before for the Tavily search, we could come in here and click Run Component and give this a moment to run. Once this is done running, like I mentioned before, you could click this Inspect Output, and we could look at the text output. This is a little hard to understand though, just because this is in markdown format. So if you ever see something like that, feel free to click on Playground in the top right-hand corner here, and you should see a more user-friendly version of what we were just running. So we could see each of the target URLs, and we could see their top keywords and related search volumes, which is what we were expecting at this point. Next up, we're going to build the competitive page analysis. And apologies, I actually mixed up the order a little bit ago. We just created the keyword extraction, which was actually step 6. But we'll create the competitive page analysis, which will consist of an agent, the Firecrawl Scrape API, and a prompt. There is going to be one little tricky thing that has to happen here, which I will explain in a moment. But we'll have our Firecrawl tool, then we'll have an agent and a prompt. And again, like I mentioned before, tool, agent, prompt, very common structure that we're going to use pretty consistently here. From here, we're actually going to make a adjustment to the Firecrawl tool. Reason we need to do that is that you can actually see there is no option to use this as a tool right now. You can see right here within the Tavily search, we connected tool to tool. Within the data for SEO API, we connected tool to tool. We do not have any option to use the Firecrawl Scrape API as a tool. So we need to adjust that. Again, I'll provide all the code for you. It'll be linked in the description. So go into the description, grab the Firecrawl Scrape code. Again, you click on this code button right here, paste the code in, hit check and save, and now you see we have that tool option that we need. And like we've done before, we'll connect tool to tool. The prompt will become the agent instructions. And again, we'll use this agent's output as the input to this agent right here. From there, we'll need to add our prompt to this prompt input here. You can see if you actually look into the prompt, and again, this might be a little different depending on when you're looking at this because I am continually optimizing these prompts. But when you're looking at it, you should see something like this, where what's going to happen is that for the output format, we're going to have something that says competitive page review, and we'll have each individual URL and a content overview for each individual URL, as well as the page links. Those are the links that are coming from within the main content. Within the actual section overview, we'll have key points. So it says insert 1 to 3 key points from the section, and it'll actually contain all the subsections. So you can think of the section as generally speaking going to be your H2s, sometimes H3s, depending on how a page is formatted. And then the subsections would be whatever is nested below those primary sections. So if the page uses H2 tags, that'll probably be your H3 tags, H4 tags, etc. And then it'll continue this pattern for each main heading on the page and for each of the URLs that we're analyzing. From there, I'm going to adjust this agent to utilize the GPT-4o. At this point, I'd recommend using whatever the most powerful model available is, just because this process is a little bit more involved than some of the other processes where, for example, we just grab the search results, or in another case, we just extracted keywords from an API. This process needs to scrape the page and then do a bunch of post-scrape processing, right? It's a little bit more involved. It requires more steps. So we're going to use a more powerful model to accomplish that, which in this case is GPT-4o, as I was using GPT-4o mini for the other agents here. And then just like we've done before, I'll test this run component just to run everything that we have up to this point to ensure it's all working as expected. Once the test is done running, we can see right here that it took about 27 seconds to run. And we could open this up, click into the text, and see the reviews. We can see the competitive page review. We can see each URL, the main content links, and we can see that written out for each of our core competitive pages here. And if we open up one of these pages, we can see the core section: study SEO basics, learn by doing, get advice from expert sources for SEMrush. The same sections right here: study SEO basics, learn by doing, get advice from expert sources. So again, what we have accomplished here is that we get pages from the search results. It gets passed into this tool, which scrapes the main content. Then we have this agent actually summarize the main content in order to match our desired output format. So moving along here, this is going to get a little different from what we've seen thus far. We're actually going to use some model setup. So rather than using agents, we're going to have 2 instances of these models, because we're going to pass the output of the competitive outline agent into these models in order to do 2 different things. Number one, we're going to aggregate those page targets. So before, when we were looking at the output, we have these lists of page links within the main content, but they're currently separated by the page. So what we're going to do is that we're going to consolidate those, so we have one kind of list of URLs. And secondarily, we're going to create an instance of the reoccurring topics based on those different pages. So we don't actually need an agent to accomplish that, because we don't need tools. All we're doing is that we're going to pass the response from this agent into these 2 different models. So all we're going to need is those model and 2 instances of the prompts. So we'll kind of set it up like this, where we have 2 models, 2 prompts. And just so we understand what's going on here, we will name these prompts. Let's call this one Reoccurring Topics, and we'll call the other one Page Links. From here, we will take the prompts. Again, I will have provided prompts. Use the most up-to-date version found in the description, and we'll add them to both of these prompt components. Lastly, we'll get this all connected. So the prompts will get connected to the system prompt. So it'll look like this. We'll have the prompt to the system prompt, the prompt to the system prompt, and then we'll have the output of this agent become the input for these two models. Lastly, I'm going to just use the 4o model here, because again, it's a little bit more powerful, and these have a little bit more complex of a workflow than some of these other processes. So now we're going to create our actual content outline. This will become the outline that is in our final content brief. So we're actually going to utilize 2 prompts this time. One which will format our input message, and the other which will act as our system prompt. And again, we'll use a model for OpenAI. So we'll have 2 different prompts, one which will become our input, one which will be our system prompt. And we'll format it like this right here. All this, again, will be linked in the description, but all we're going to do here is we're actually going to just stack up various things that we've already created. So we'll have our competitive keyword targets, our competitive page outlines, which we just created a moment ago, the competitive page links, and the reoccurring topics. So those are all the things that we've actually created thus far. When you actually create those variables, you'll see something like this, which will allow you to programmatically insert that information into the parts of the prompt. So when we're looking at here, you can imagine it's going to pipe the information from the competitive keyword targets into that area. So this right here is going to be replaced with the actual table of keyword targets. Just to give you a more real example, if we come in here, we grab the output from this, it would fundamentally look like this once everything is said and done. So it will insert that information right there, and the AI will know that this is the start and end of the competitive keyword target. And last item here, we'll add in our system prompt. Again, the most up-to-date version of this prompt will be found in the description, but you see it gives it instructions about what the input data will be, the competitive keyword targets, recurring topics, the insights for SEO optimization, the extra links, and the competitive page reviews. And that gives it requirements of what it needs to create. You'll see down here that the output will have this kind of H2 tag. This is marked down for H2. Then you'll have each of the H2 tags, H3 tags, the content outline, as well as media ideas for each of the sections. So different imagery, videos, infographics, etc. From there, we could connect everything together. So we'll have our reoccurring topics connect to reoccurring topics, page links connect to competitive page links. We'll have the competitive page outlines from all the way over here connect to the competitive page outlines within the prompt, and the competitive keywords from down here connect to competitive keywords. And lastly, we could run a test to ensure it's all working. We can actually update this to 4.0 as well, because again, pretty complex process we have here. We'll hit run component to run a test of everything we have thus far. Now we could click right here to see the output. So we see the content outline. We see each of our H2, so introduction to SEO, understanding SEO basics, keyword research, on-page SEO, link building, technical SEO. The list goes on. It's a pretty comprehensive outline. Then you see H3s that should exist within each section, a very brief outline of what kind of content you would expect to see in each section, as well as some media ideas. So you see video tutorial of ethical SEO best practices, interactive tool demo for keyword research, and so on and so forth. So there's one last piece of this that we're going to put together before we get this thing finalized, and that's going to be a process to actually create the page name. So this will become the H1 tag for the page. And for that, we'll have a model. So we'll use the OpenAI model again, and we'll have two different prompts, prompt 1 and prompt 2. And we'll connect these. So we'll have this one be the input, this one be the system message, and we'll plug this in. So we'll plug in the keyword targets in the content outline to become the model inputs. So this is the agent for the keyword targets. So we'll take this and we'll plug it into the keyword targets right there. And then the content outline, which is from right here, and we'll pull it back and pull it into the content outline right there. And lastly, we will add in the prompt to actually generate this. Per usual, you can find the most up-to-date version in the description. However, I do not expect this one to change all that much. Add in that prompt, and we should be all set. Everything is actually completed, but we need to merge it all together, right, to give us our final output. In order to do that, we're going to create one more custom component. Again, the code for this will be found in the description of the video. We'll come in here, we'll click code, we'll paste this in. And what this is actually going to do is provide us the ability to just combine 3 chunks of text into our final output. So you see first text, second text, third text. Our first text is going to be the header of the page. Our second text is going to be the page outline. And our third text is going to be this right here. Let's take a look at everything we created. We start with the chat input, which has a text input. For this, I have SEO 101 in there right now. That gets passed into this agent that has access to the Tavily search API, which gives us the top results for a search result. And it actually filters that information down to just be the editorial search results. From there, it branches off into two different workflows. First of which grabs the keyword targets for each of the pages from the Tavily search results. Secondarily, we get the workflow to scrape the main content of each page from the search results and consolidate that information into the content outlines that we utilize for the analysis. From there, we get the page links and the reoccurring topics, and all of that information gets funneled into this system that creates a final page outline. Lastly, at this area below, we see that it creates a page header. We consolidate all of that information together to come up with our final chat output. To test the final system, I'm going to just open up the playground. I'm going to start a new session, and I'm going to start a search. So this is just like chatting with a normal chatbot. Press send, and you'll see updates as it's actually running the workflow. So the job's finished running. You can see we started with the user input of SEO 101. The first agent call was completed in 4.8 seconds to get the top 3 pages from the search results. From there, the second agent was called, took 50.7 seconds to actually create the competitive page reviews. So we have our URLs, the core sections and key points within each of those sections for each of the pages. From there, we see another agent was run, took 13.6 seconds. That agent was the one to get the actual keyword targets and search volumes for each of the top 3 pages. And lastly, we ran a few different model inputs and consolidated all that information together. So we have our H1 tag here, Mastering SEO Basics, Learn SEO Optimization for Beginners, and Boost Your Online Presence. We have our content outline, which has the H2s, H3s, the outline for each section, and media ideas for each section. From there, when we scroll all the way down, we can see we have quite a robust outline. So we have Introduction to SEO, On-Page SEO Essentials, Technical SEO Fundamentals, Creating SEO Content, Off-Page SEO Strategies, Understanding SEO Analytics. So that is the outline for the piece of content that this tool has put together for us. We have the competitive keyword targets, so we could utilize this to find our top keywords for the page. We have the competitive page review. Again, we already went over what this looks like, but it is included in that output, so you have that information handy. And from there, we have our outlines. Continuing to scroll down, we have our consolidated page links, and lastly, our reoccurring topics. So the reoccurring topics are what topics are showing up across which pages. So you could utilize that to help inform what you want to exist within the page as well.